Good day, MBA students. This is a case study analysis of the Mountain Man Brewing Company. Bringing the brand to light. Presented by Eric Drost. Core team members, Tasia Lawhorn, Rachel Phillips, Devin Becks, and Shauna Johnson. The objectives of this case study: how to launch Mountain Man Light and hopes to attract younger drinkers to the brand. How to introduce the new brand of light beer without killing the brand in general and the current product already being sold in high favor. Also, what it would take to launch a product as far as cost, and on the other end, the return and profit that it would result. A quick recap of the Mountain Man. It's a family-owned business ran by Oscar Prangle, who's the president. Chris Prangle, his son, would soon inherit in years to come. They brewed one kind of beer, Mountain Man Lager, also known as West Virginia's beer. The Mountain Man Brewing Company, also referred to as MMBC, was founded by Gunter Prangle in 1925 when he reformulated an old family brew recipe that the family would launch as Mountain Man Lager. By 1960, the Mountain Man's reputation as a quality beer was well known throughout East Central region of the United States. Some of the corporate responsibilities: Gunter Prangle was the founder of Mountain Man Brewing Company in 1925. Oscar Prangle is the current president and owner, but is soon to retire from MMBC. Chris Prangle, son of Oscar Prangle, is a recent MBA graduate and managing the marketing operations for the company, but he's soon to inherit the business. Some of the core components of MMBC. Mountain Man Lager was launched after the reformulation of an old family recipe, using meticulous selection of Bavarian hops and unusual strains of barley. It was flavorful, bitter tasting, and classified as a legacy brew in its mature business. By 2005, Mountain Man was generating revenues just over $50 million and selling about 520,000 barrels, primarily to distribution in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and its native West Virginia. Brand awareness was one of the cornerstones of the brand's success with blue-collar customers. Continuing the core components of MMBC, when selecting beer, consumers consider several things: taste, price, the occasion being celebrated, perceived quality, brand image, tradition, and local authenticity. MMBC relied on its history and status as an independent, family-owned brewery to create authenticity and position the beer with its core drinkers: blue-collar, middle-aged, middle to low-income men. The other attributes that defined the quality of Mountain Man was its smoothness, percentage of water content, and drinkability. But it was the distinct bitter flavor and slightly higher than average alcohol content that contributed to the brand's equity. Core components of MMBC continued. MMBC invested in a number of activities that build brand equity. It established its own small sales force. It helped to push the brand and help focus on getting off-premises locations, like liquor stores and supermarkets, to embrace Mountain Man. Blue-collar males purchased 60% of beer that they drank at off-premise locations. Mountain Man sold 70% of its beer for off-premise consumption. Promoting the Mountain Man Lager. MMBC held the top market position among lagers in West Virginia for almost 50 years and had a respectable market share for an old-school regional brewery. To accentuate the beer's dark color, it was packaged in brown bottles, with the original 1925 design of a crew of coal miners printed on the front. Mountain Man Lager was priced similar to premium domestic brands such as Miller and Budweiser, and below specialty brands such as Sam Adams. It was priced typically about $2.25 for every 12-ounce serving of draft beer in a bar, and about $4.99 for a six-pack in a local convenience store. MMBC's current situation. Due to the changes in beer drinker preference, the company was experiencing declining sales for the first time in history. Since 2001, U.S. per capita beer consumption had declined by 2.3% due to competition from wine and spirit-based drinks. An increase in federal tax, initiatives encouraging modernization and personal responsibility, and the increasing health concerns. Also, light beer sales in the U.S. has been growing at a compound annual rate of 4%, while traditional premium beer sales had declined by the same percentage. Of total U.S. beer sales, 18.3% took place in the East Central region, causing more competition amongst beer companies in those states. MMBC's current situation continued. The state had recently repealed arcane laws that had sharply limited the promotion of beer in retail establishments. As a result, retail stores began selling beer at deep discounts. Distributors became more discriminating about which smaller brands they were going to sell. They started to pay more attention to turnover and margins and dropping brands that contributed little to the bottom line. On the other hand, large national breweries who maintain economies of scale in brewing, transportation, and marketing put great pressure on smaller regional brewers like the Mountain Man. Revenues were down 2% relative to the prior fiscal year at MMBC. MMBC in comparison to other brands. In terms of gender, according to the numbers, domestic light beer is consumed by 56% of males and 42% of females, which is extremely high amongst the female population. Domestic premium beer is consumed by 68% of males and 32% of females. Mountain Man Lager is consumed by 81% males, 19% female, extremely low amongst the female population. The age range of 21 to 24 for both domestic light beer and domestic premium beer was about the same at 8 to 9%. With Mountain Man Lager, it was at 2%. Feasibility of Mountain Man Light. According to the study, it would be feasible for Chris to launch the light beer formulation of Mountain Man Lager. To confirm his calculations, though, he watched an agency video from a focus group where they observed a half a dozen participants ages 21 to 55 showing their reactions to Mountain Man Light's proposal. A man in his 50s declared that he wasn't interested in light beer and to leave Mountain Man the way that it was. A man in his early 30s dressed in jeans and camouflage shirt was shown a mock advertisement for the product, and he wondered what barbecue parties and puppies had to do with the product. A man in his mid-20s and fashionably dressed said that it sounds pretty good, but he would leave it to the guys to drink because it was too strong for him anyway. A woman in her early 20s with low-rise jeans and a t-shirt said that she would definitely try Mountain Man Light. Feasibility of Mountain Man Light continued, the pros and cons. The pros for Mountain Man Light. Light beer accounted for 50.4% of volume sales in 2005. Newer, faster-growing product categories experiencing constraint growth. Younger consumers preferred light beer as well as women. It would help MMBC gain share in on-premise locations. And there was a possible increase in revenue. Some of the cons for Mountain Man Light. Chance of killing the core brand of Mountain Man Lager and its customer base. There was higher advertising costs versus the internal revenue. It would get lost in a new sea of product introductions. Break-even analysis for Mountain Man Light Brewing Company. To determine what is required for Mountain Man to break even in 2 years, we calculated the break-even analysis. It is net revenue divided by the revenue per unit. We took the net revenue from their income statement of $50,440,000 and divided it by the revenue per unit of 520,000 barrels. that equaled $97 per barrel. The variable price would be $71.62 per barrel, which is $4.69 higher than Mountain Man Lager. We proceeded to divide the $97 by the variable price to receive a net profit margin of $25.38. Break-even analysis continued. Break-even analysis for Mountain Man Light Brewing in 2 years. Variable cost for Mountain Man Lager is $66.93. The variable cost for Mountain Man Light would be $71.62 by adding the variable cost of $4.69 to the Mountain Man Lager. Price per barrel of $97. Net profit margin of $25.83. Break-even analysis continued. After we added up the initial advertising cost of $750,000 to 2 years of the annual SG&A cost of $900,000, it equaled $2,550,000, the fixed cost of the beer. We then had to figure out the break-even volume by dividing the fixed cost by the net profit margin, which equaled 100,473 barrels of beer. In other words, they would have to sell 100,473 barrels while making a revenue of $9,745,881, which would be the total break-even volume divided by the price per barrel without cannibalization. Break-even analysis continued. Break-even analysis without cannibalization for Mountain Man Light. The total break-even volume, the fixed cost over the net profit margin. Total break-even revenue, total break-even volume multiplied by the price per barrel. Break-even analysis continued. To determine what market share Mountain Man Light would have to obtain to break even considering cannibalization, we would have to find the fixed cost with 20% cannibalization while adding 2% of lost revenue annually. We would add all these costs together from the income statement. The fixed cost would be $3,328,262. To find out the break-even volume needed, we divide the fixed cost of $25.38 to equal 131,137 barrels needed. For the revenue, the barrels will be multiplied by the price per barrel, equaling $12,720,308, the revenue needed to break even with cannibalization. Break-even analysis continued for Mountain Man Light. To break even with 20% cannibalization for Mountain Man Lager, plus the 2% lost revenue base, we take the total break-even volume, which equals the fixed cost over the net profit margin. Total break-even revenue equals the total break-even volume multiplied by the price per barrel. Overall analysis of the launch of Mountain Man Light. Based on the numbers, the launching of Mountain Man Light would eventually lead to an increase in revenue. It would also help revitalize the brand that Chris is targeting. On the flip side, it was believed that Mountain Man Light would never achieve the volume of the larger beer brands like Miller Lite and Coors Light because they can't sustain distribution and support advertising in the ways that these companies can. In essence, while Mountain Man Light will be successful with revenue stream, it may get lost in a new sea of product introductions. On behalf of Group 2, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you the best of luck in the class. Thank you.